nationwide protests if the federal government proceeds with its proposed electricity tariff hike, describing it as economic violence against the working class and broader Nigerian populace. Also on Spotlight today, I will look at the ban on medical tourism for public officers. The ban on medical tourism for public officers. And the Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos has turned down a request by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, to ban public officers from seeking medical treatment abroad. And now joining us live to look at all of these issues. First, I will begin on the space of the NLC. We have a lawyer and a public policy analyst. We have Mr. Heidiame Romosele. Mr. Heidiame, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I hope I got your name correctly.
You got it very well.
All right. So we also have, thank you very much. We also have a member of the PDP National Presidential Campaign Council in 2023 and a member of the Board of Governors, PDI. We have Dr. Adetokunbo Pairs. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome to the show. All right, so let's look at let me start from you, Dr. Adetokunbo. I mean, it's worrisome sometimes when NLC calls for this, and NLC has described this issues of electricity tariff as an economic violence against the working class and the broader Nigerian populace. I mean, you're a Nigerian. I mean, also, does this affect you in any way? And how do you describe the words of NLC? Yeah, saying that this is an economic violence against the working class and against the broader Nigerian populace.
The Nigerian Labour Congress is always doing a good job on behalf of the people, at least speaking truth to power and letting them know that this type of increases do not do anything good for the economy and for the well-being of the citizens. However, it has come to a point where I think the Labour Congress has to adopt a new strategy. Because every time they go on strike, after a while, things go back to as usual. So they need to adopt a new strategy. They need to learn from what happened in the days of civil rights struggle in the United States before the black people were able to get real results. They had to take a three-pronged approach. You have to sue these companies. You have to boycott their goods so they feel the economic pain. So, we have to do things differently to get real results. Because frankly, Labour Congress has been fighting on behalf of the people, fighting the government for minimum wage and so on and so forth. But, nothing seems to happen. No real gains. So we have to adopt a different strategy that will yield real results for the people.
All right, a different strategy that will yield results for the people. Let's go to Hidiame, our lawyer. What's your take on all of this? I mean, an economic violence. Do you agree with the NLC, or you feel the NLC is doing right?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I have a slightly different take because, first of all, I would want to inform your guests that the issue of, the problems we are seeing in the power sector has been due to a long decades of neglect and proper investment in that sector. What ought to have been done, say, in the 80s and in the 90s were neglected up until the time, Jonathan tried to untangle the power sector until now. And even when he did, we noticed that the people that took up mostly the discos didn't quite have the capacity or didn't quite appreciate the scale, of liabilities that they were inheriting. So they are caught in a catch-22 situation. The electricity hike now to be honest, the debate is between economic sustainability versus affordability, which is at the heart of the conversation we're having.
Is this to
one
agree?
Understands,
is this to agree with NLC or with the federal government on what they're doing? Are you opposing the NLC?
To be honest, I side with my co-panelists here that there needs to be a different approach to this matter, because there needs, on one hand, there's the need to increase this tariff, or at least improve or invest in infrastructure. And some of the discourse would argue that the part of the strategy to make that happen would have to increase their investment, and the government has said they want to reduce subsidy as well. But then again, the NSC is right. You cannot increase the hike or in price is about 250 naira per kilowatt, if I'm not wrong. And then how do those who are typically in neighborhoods that are low income bear that kind of cost? There needs to be a middle ground somewhere. And I would even prefer that NLC would take that approach rather than just call for a nationwide strike.
Okay, NLC taking that approach rather than calling for a nationwide strike. Okay, quickly, let's still look at these issues of the NLC before we move to other conversations. It seems to be like Nigerians no longer trust NLC again. Let me come to Dr. Adetokunbo there. It seems to be like Nigerians are having a feeble mind concerning NLC, where NLC hasn't stand their ground, talking from the minimum wage down to the electricity tariff hike, down to petrol prices and all of this. Do you think Nigerians trust the NLC enough, or it's just a matter of, well, let's see how it goes?
Well, there have been allegations that sometimes after they've made a lot of noise, they've made a lot of protests, they cut a deal with the government and everything ends, that there's corruption in the NLC itself. That notwithstanding, the NLC is caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. What can they do? The protest, but that's why I said the strategy has to change. I think the question of power, especially power, has to be approached from the level of improving service delivery in the government generally, in the country generally. And that goes to the issue of restructuring of the system. For instance, in the United States, a huge country of over 300 million people, how can you have what they call a national grid? This is the problem with Nigeria. Everything is so centralized. What we are operating in Nigeria now, this 1999 constitution, is a military constitution that is centered around military command mentality. Everything must come from the center. Afraid that the different sub-regions will rebel again and go into secede. To avoid that, they put everything in the national. How can you have one source providing electricity? This thing must be divided into different parts. Every not only states, but every local government must have its own power structure. That is the only way we can have power. And it must be electricity is supervised by government, the policies and so on, but it's a business. And simultaneously, you must increase the income of people so that they can afford these things. So you have to improve the supply of this electricity, and you do not do it from the way we have it structured now. It cannot happen. When you are giving discourse to people, what happened? They were giving it to their friends, people who couldn't really perform. Corruption everywhere. You must decentralize these things. If we decentralize, we'll get better results. That's why I said the Labour Congress must approach all these problems from a holistic perspective, that the whole country, the system we run in this country must change. If it doesn't change, you're not going to have peace and you're not going to have progress.
All right, so the system must change. Well, let me come to a lawyer right there, Yidi Ahmed. Do you trust the NLC enough to take charge in all of this, just the way it has started right from trying to mediate with the government on the minimum wage, the fuel price, now the electricity tariff, all of this? I mean, do you trust the NLC enough, or you feel like corruption has infiltrated the system?
Well, the question of trust for the LLC, to my own mind, is a problem created by themselves. And the problem is due to lack of proper articulation of their basic objectives and ideology. From 1999, we see that the LSE was a strong driving force in social mobilization on key issues that were, at the heart of the masses. And they did quite well initially, but the country needs to understand that at the core of its objective is to safeguard the interests of its own.
Don't forget, there was a time. There was a time that the president actually said that. I mean, if you are now a political party, I mean, wait for us till 2020. So I don't know if you can remember when the president called them out. During all of this, threat and protest and all of this. So it seems
yes. I quite remember, and because some of these issues sometimes have political consequences, and the way they were communicating, oftentimes confuse the politicians or the government of the day. But that is, and I digress from that. The issue, just as Dr. Adiko Togumbo just said, is that look, you cannot have development without electrical power or energy in the country, and generally speaking, for efficiency, decentralization is needed, right? And of course, you don't expect the same energy requirements with someone in Zamfara as someone in Lagos. There are two people with two different sections with energy, different energy needs, and NLC's inability to communicate some of these things, at a higher level, engage, some of the what is the legislature of the policy drivers have all have all brought about a mistrust, because they come around, they try to mobilize. When the other party now brings in the facts and figures, they are now left unprepared, and sometimes they have to now concede. So when they backtrack, the general public, like you see, these people have been bought. So in terms of their preparedness, their own understanding of some of these key issues, their engagement, the education and all whatnot, it has not been sufficient. That's on one side. There has been allegation that yes, they too, get settled. It's difficult to know. Those are wild allegations. One does not delve into the realm of conjecture and speculation. But when we see some of the outcome of the negotiation, right, of course, it leaves very, very little taste to some of the people that have those positions.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much. Lagos, yes, let's open the phone lines so you can be part of this conversation right here. 0705 890 4927. 0705 890 4927. Or 0805 092 0927. 0805 092 0927. Don't forget you can send us messages via WhatsApp 0705 690 0927. 0705 690 0927. All right, finally, before we go on a break, the Labour Party, the NLC has directed its organ to rebrand the Labour Party. Okay, let me come to, Dr. Tito Kumbo, who is also a member of the PDP National Presidential Campaign Council. I mean, the NLC rebranding it's the Labour Party. Is that right?
That's a major problem. It's a major problem of credibility for the Labour Congress. You cannot be a member of a political party and say you are representing the whole of the people when it's obvious that if you're a member of Labour Party, you are prejudiced in favor of the Labour Party. So it has damaged the credibility, the image of the Nigerian Labour Congress to a great extent. A lot of damage has been done. So I don't know how they're going to undo that. Because if you study the Labour Party in the United Kingdom, you find that the Labour Party in the United Kingdom is a political party. You know, it's just called the Labour Party. It's a political party and doesn't have anything to do with representing the workers as such. Because the way the Labour Party, the way the national NLC has evolved in Nigeria is different from the way the Labour Party evolved in England. So calling themselves members of the Labour Party is just a label that they really don't need. If anybody can be a worker and a member of the NLC and be in other political parties. So if you come and say now you're a member of the Labour Party, oh boy. I think it's just damaged the image totally. They cannot represent anybody anymore.
Okay, thank you very, very, very much for your time. Yeah, quickly. We'll take a short break. And when we return, definitely we'll go into the other conversation where we'll talk about the ban on medical tourism for public officers. Please stay on the line.
We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. Switch to the good side of life here on 92.7 Super FM.
In many regions, female children are marginalized and face educational barriers. Let us break this circle by supporting initiatives that enhance access to quality education for the girl child globally. Together, we can empower and shape a brighter future for the girl child.
This message is brought to you by 92.7 Super FM.
One family, one radio.
Listening to Spotlight on Super 92.7 FM. Right about now, it's time for us to go into the conversation on the public officers. Yes, a lot of things have been happening. The Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos has turned down a request by the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, to ban public officers from seeking medical treatment abroad. In July 2010, Falana had dragged the federal government before the trial court, seeking, among other things, a declaration that Nigerians are entitled to the best attainable state of physical and mental health as guaranteed by law, and the failure of the government to repair and equip hospitals and medical centers in Nigeria constitutes a violation of the right to protect the health of Nigerians and to ensure that they receive medical attention when they're sick. It sought a court order directing the government to repair and equip the hospitals and an order restraining public officials from accessing medical checkups in any foreign hospitals and being treated at public expense in such hospitals. Well, Justice Polycarp Tenma Kwaha, who read the judgment on behalf of the three-man panel of justices, said it will be an infringement or breach on the fundamental right of Nigerians, be they public officers or not, to prevent them from seeking medical attention outside Nigeria when the need arises, and it will therefore be a draconian to grant the request. All right, yes, we'll still have Dr. Adetokunbo Pez, who is a member of the PDP National Presidential Campaign Council 2023 and a member of the Board of Governors, PDI. I will also have Ehidiame Romosele, who is a lawyer and a public policy analyst. Good morning, my gentleman. Good morning, Dr. Adetokunbo. Good morning, Ehidiame. Still welcome to the show.
Morning.
All right.
Good morning.
All right, let's still look at this conversation. I still thank you for staying on the conversation. I mean, Dr. Adetokunbo, how do you receive this news where the justice has refutes a ban, declined a ban on medical tourism for public officers at a time when it seems to be like we're trying to cut experts, when it seems to be like a lot is coming from the federal government. They're talking about tariff hikes. We're talking about telecoms, talking about electricity. I mean, right now we know what the fuel is saying, all of this. But yet it seems to be like the federal government are not, or the court is supporting the federal government in making sure that, well, enjoy yourself. Spree. I mean, if anywhere you want to go to on the name of medical tourism, how do you react to this news?
Well, I'm glad you have a barrister on the program, because as far as I know, as a layman, the law is for the benefit of man and not man for the benefit of the law. What the court has done in this case is to hide behind some legality to say that it is not the responsibility of the court to enforce the government to perform and provide proper health services for the people. However, I put it to anybody who's listening that this judgment is typical of the judgment that has been coming from our courts, which favors the privileged class, top government officials, and does a lot of damage to 90% of Nigerians. How can you say that government officials can go abroad, use taxpayers' money to take care of their health, and abandon the development of the health services in their own country? Recently, the Vice President Shetima, made a comment that I think is so scandalous, so irresponsible, so fraudulent, that I can never forgive this man. And may God deal with all these people. He said that people are coming from abroad to access the health services in Nigeria because our health services are so good, the hospitals are so functional, medical care is so good in Nigeria. And yet, they don't want to use the health services in Nigeria. When they are sick, they want to go abroad. What does that tell you? They have abandoned the people to die in the hospitals here. Medication is so expensive, people go to hospital to die, not to be cured in Nigeria now. God forbid you have a complex health situation. You know it's just the time to go. You hear it every day. And yet, there have been no improvements, no real investment in the health sector in Nigeria. For which reason, they themselves know. Anytime Tinubu wants to get a medical checkup, the president, he goes abroad. I mean, what could be more scandalous? What could be more ridiculous, more shameful than this? And the judges, I guess they too, they benefit from the same system. They are part of this senior cadre who can get medical care abroad at the taxpayers' expense. I don't know where we're going in this country, but I tell you, we've never had it so bad, because it is understandable if we have this level of corruption, this level of deceit and dishonesty in life. If you tell me, I'm also a lecturer in the university, I'm also a father. Does that mean that all fathers are the same? Does that mean that all lawyers are the same? All lawyers are not the same. So I am a politician, but I am not a politician of the corrupt type, of the fraudulent type, of the lying type that some of these people are in government that we have today. There is no government with politicians that is perfect, just like life itself. However, some governments, some administrations are better than others. I dare say anybody now to compare Goodluck Jonathan's administration, even far back as Obasanjo's administration, with Buhari's administration and Tinubu's administration. There is a difference between the two. Look at what is going on in the National Assembly now. Have you ever had a Senate president so fraudulent, so corrupt, so disgraceful as Akpabio? Never in the history of Nigeria. Have you ever had a president in Nigeria who is alleged to be an agent of the CIA of America? Have you ever had a vice president in Nigeria who is reportedly alleged to be a senior member of the Boko Haram? Come on. We have never had it so bad in Nigeria. So let us face it. Our judiciary has always been under pressure from the politicians. But many times they have fought back. Everything depends on the presidency. If the presidency is manipulating everybody, including the judiciary in preparation for winning election in 2027, we have serious problems in this country. Yes, I am PDP. I'm a politician, but I am speaking the truth. Compare the administration. This is why we are hoping and begging God to allow a proper leader from PDP to take over this administration. 8 years of Buhari, we've never had anything so bad in Nigeria. Now we have 2 years of Tinubu. We thought Buhari was bad. Now this one is even more disastrous.
Okay,
this is a calamity we have now.
All right.
So that's where we are.
Okay, let's now go to a lawyer, also a public policy analyst, also Idiama. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, we're still talking about the conversation, on the ban on medical tourism for public officers. Far back in 2022, officers, it was said, President Muhammadu Buhari then said that officers who spend public funds on medical tourism will risk 7-year jail term. And also, the bill then seeking to end medical tourism among Nigerian public officials was also sent. But years down the line, it seems to be like the judiciary really taking part, being politicized. It seems to be like politicians have fingered, the judicial system. And the Court of Appeal in Lagos has turned down the request to place a ban on public officers seeking medical treatment abroad. Well, you're a lawyer. Open our eyes on all of this.
Well, just like Dr. Tokumbo rightfully said, not all judges or the judiciary, as it were, can be seen or be tainted with a kind of perception, so to speak, an alleged kind of perception, right? I want to get that quickly out of the way because typically the judiciary, their job strictly revolves around interpretation of the law. Their job, unlike the executive and the legislature, that doesn't revolve around execution or even legislating any laws, right? Now, the reason why I say this is because, yes, there's a legal question to this conversation, and there's a, will I call it national stroke, patriotic stroke, even economic conversation to this conversation as well. And both must be clearly divided so that our audience, are better educated. Now, it will interest your audience to know that under Chapter 2 of the 99 Constitution as amended, right, there is a broad provision on the non-justiciability with respect to certain key areas that governments must do in providing good governance to citizenry. If you could spare me just a few minutes,
please
I
go
could
ahead.
just take a little excerpt. It says it basically outlines the social, political rights and responsibility of the government, which include healthcare, education, security, and welfare of citizens. However, particularly Section 66C of the Constitution say that it's non-justiciable, meaning that it cannot be legally enforced in a law court by citizens, and the government cannot be sued for failing to meet these obligations. Now, it's also important to know that, of course, it encourages the government to do its best to provide good health care to its citizenry and all that. But part of the reasons one may think that this provision is made so that will not be seen as a distraction. Nigeria, and not just only Nigeria, in other countries, say like Ireland, like India, just to mention a few, also have this unique provision of non-justiciability attached to their respective constitutions, right? Yes, it encourages good governance and all that, but in order, because you were talking about resource allocation and how to deal with it per time. If the government were to be sued on all these things, it may be difficult to even enforce and to create all manner of mischievous outcomes. Of course, part of the ways to drive such accountability, of course, is through holding our legislators accountable, whether at the local, the state, and even the federal level. But I would also be amiss if I don't bring to the attention of the public that, yes, there are some countries that indeed insert justiciability concerning key issues of governance. Typically, most South American countries, but in Africa, we have South Africa, which makes the question of healthcare rights is guaranteed under the Constitution, and the government must ensure that its citizens, get affordable healthcare as much as possible.
But in
This is
Nigeria,
just one example.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, but typically, in this.
Okay. I guess we lost that connection there. Well, why we try to get connected back to our guest. Let's quickly go to the phone lines to join our guest in all of this conversation right there. I mean, a lot is definitely happening, and there's a ban on the medical tourism. I mean, the Court of Appeal has definitely declined the ban on medical tourism for public officers. Well, let's go to the phone lines. 0705 890 4927 0705 890 4927 or 0805 092 0927 0805 092 0927. Well, also you can also send your messages via WhatsApp. You can send your message via WhatsApp 0705 690 0927 0705 690 0927. Don't forget, yes, send your messages. Okay, we have messages. Say, good morning, Mr. Michael. Okay, Henry from Ojo. I ask again, what do this government actually want from the people? The outrageous charges from the CBN is totally ridiculous. They have sworn to extort money from naive customers. Well, that's Henry from Ojo. Well, okay, this one, Ayo from Lasso. Ayo from Lasso says, the system is already corrupt. Everyone benefiting from it don't want the change you are talking about. The system is already corrupt. Everyone benefiting from it don't want the change you are talking about. Please keep your message coming in. Keep your message coming in. 0705 690 0927 0705 690 0927 or callers on 0705 890 4927 0705 890 4927 or 0805 092 0927 0805 092 0927. All right, let's also look at issues right here. Also, I mean, a whole lot also definitely happening right yeah, a whole lot. Well, we're still talking about the ban on medical tourism for public officers, and then senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has filed, a court of appeal sitting in Lagos has turned down a request by the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, to ban public officers from seeking medical treatment abroad. Well, Justice Polycarp Teram Kwama, who read the judgment on behalf of three-man panel, says it will be an infringement or breach on the fundamental right of Nigerians, be they public officers or not, to prevent them from seeking medical attention outside Nigeria when the needs arises. Well, other justices of the court, Justice Muhammad Mustafa and Justice Paul Bassi, agreed and affirmed the judgment of the Federal High Court, Ikeja, delivered in 2021. Well, but in 2010, Mr. Falana had dragged the federal government before the trial court, seeking, among other things, a declaration that Nigerians are entitled to the best attainable state of physical and mental health as guaranteed by law, and a failure of the government to repair and equip public hospitals and medical centers in Nigeria, which constitutes a violation of the right to protect the health of Nigerians and to ensure that they receive medical attention when they are sick. Well, he also sought a court order directing the government to repair and equip the hospitals, and also an order restraining public officials from assessing medical checkups in any foreign hospitals. Also, there is issues attaining medical checkups in foreign hospitals and being treated at public expense in such hospitals. Well, so much definitely happening right yeah. But let's quickly go on a short break. When we return, we'll connect to a guest and we'll talk more in all of this. Please stay with us.
One family, one radio. 92.7 Super FM. To listen to us anywhere, download Super FM Global app on the Google App Store or the iOS app right now. Stay connected to Super FM. 92.7 Super FM.
In many regions, female children are marginalized and face educational barriers. Let us break this circle by supporting initiatives that enhance access to quality education for the girl child globally. Together, we can empower and shape a brighter future for the girl child.
This message is brought to you by 92.7 Super FM. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
92.7 Super FM.
All right, welcome back. Yes, we'll still have a lawyer and a public policy analyst. Welcome, Mr. Barrister Ayidiame. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Yes, I am.
Sorry about the network glitches right there. But I mean, you were trying to, wrap up your thoughts on what you think and all of this happening.
Yes. As I was trying to say that, when Mr. Falano SAN took this matter to court, some of us in the legal circle somehow knew that this may be the outcome, could easily predict because of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Typically, just as I tried to mention earlier, it's not in the place of the judge or the judiciary where to make mandates on matters that has been clearly been restricted by the Constitution. It has no powers to do that. All right. Of course, there's also the thing of separation of power. The executive things, e.g., resource allocation to a particular sector, because that is clearly beyond its own its own powers. So such restraints, typically wants to happen in this kind of situation that it presents itself. But no, let me not speak too much as a lawyer.
I remember. I mean, the former vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, at one time he did a surgery in Nigeria, if you remember, in Lagos. Yes. Though it was said to be like he invited, some experts from abroad, and the surgery happened here. But that is a welcome development. But right now it seems to be, the medical, the so-called medical trip that's been run by public officers is to maybe take for some funds, and do some of this, take some girlfriends out, all of this, issues or controversies surrounding the medical trip abroad. As also, not just as a lawyer, but also as a public policy analyst, do you agree with all of these issues? Are you in line with the fact that the federal government, these public officers need to come down and do the right thing in our medical system now, in the hospitals, build hospitals? Most of them are fond of all of these local hospitals. Yeah, right. Yeah, I can't remember all of this. How do we call it? This primary health care centers, that we have in different locations and all of this. Sometimes I wonder if this is the right step.
For me, let me policy analyst, and I would say quite frankly that populace is always good for any nation and should be top priority nation. And it must be a matter of public policy that the government leads the way in ensuring that police encourage in the health sector, both public and private sector, whether primary or secondary health sectors.
Okay.
It has many ramifications, but from a legal point of view, except the constitution is changed, it will be difficult to enforce whatever abuse or call in the system.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Dr. Adetokunbo. Please, I don't know if you can just help us mute your mic.
So that's why I cannot speak.
Okay, yes. All right. Thank you very much. Let's go to Dr. Adetokunbo right here. Please, Barrister, can you please help us mute your mic so that we don't have this network? Okay, thank you very much, Barrister. Let's go to Dr. Adetokunbo. Dr. Adetokunbo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I mean, all of this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly. Okay, all of these controversies and issues and surrounding, our health care system. How do you correct, or how do you redirect politicians, public officers, especially the top brass, who don't fix our medical centers, rather run down overseas for medical attention and all of this? I was just telling Barrister here that sometimes former vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, if you're aware, sometimes add a treatment right here in Nigeria, a surgery for that matter, not just a minor, a kind of a ailment, a surgery. Has a surgery done right here in Nigeria, Lagos, precisely, and it was commendable. But it seems to be like all of those politicians, some of the politicians, run, abroad to get medical, any little things, be it headache or be it one of this, run down overseas in the name of medical tourism and all of this. And we know how much it's been spent on this medical tourism. I was also saying that during the time of Buhari, officers who spent public funds on medical tourism were to risk 7-year jail term. And at the time also, at the House of Reps too.
President Buhari himself, every time he has a cough, he goes abroad. He spend billions of Nigeria's public people's funds, the taxpayers' money, to take care of his health. Tinubu had done the same. So look, but the barrister made a point that is very germane to every discussion. Falana has said it several times, and people like myself have said it several times, and I said it earlier today on your program, that the 1999 Constitution is a bogus constitution that does nothing to help development, economic, prosperity, social security development in any way. It has to be changed. Because you cannot enforce this law that says that the government must provide proper services in the health sector and other sectors for the people. So government officials who are dubious and corrupt will hide under that and go and do whatever they want to do. So until the law is changed that enforces them to do the right thing, we are not going to have serious progress unless, by the grace of God, you have people in government who are God-fearing and who will do the right thing on behalf of the people. But you cannot leave it to the good conscience of people to do the right thing. You must enforce, you must put it into law so that it will become a legal issue for them if they don't do it. So as things stand now, elected officials to do the right thing. I think what we may have to now, as Congress may have to do also, in them individually, so that it's not just a question of waiting till the Constitution is amended, but when people do the wrong thing. For instance, when Tinubu goes abroad, the president goes abroad for medical services, of course, usually they will hide it. They will say he's going for a conference, and we find him in hospital there in Paris. But whenever these things happen, people should just start complaining about it. We're talking about it. But more importantly, make sure that when the election comes and you have an opportunity to vote such corrupt people out of office, you do so. You know, we have to have change of government in this country. How can you have every time we have an election, elected officers who are known to be corrupt, who have a bad record already, become elected? But I must say, this last 2023 election was unique. Akpabio, who is a very known to be corrupt, when he was governor, he was found to be corrupt. A lot of billions of naira found in his house, in his mansion. He still has a case in EFCC. How did he become a Senate president? Because EFCC gave him the position. And EFCC, because Akpabio never contested Senate, he was contesting for president. And then he came in again. The person who contested for Senate was put aside. He became senator. I mean, we have all sorts of atrocities. The president himself is not illegally, he's not elected. The 1% came in. They say he has won the election. So, by the grace of God, 2027 is around the corner. This government must change. We are not going to have a perfect administration, but we are going to have elected officers who are not as dubious and as corrupt, as fraudulent as what we have now. That is all I can say.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Adetokunbo Pearce, a member of the PDP National Presidential Campaign Council in 2023 and a member of the board of Governors PDI. It's been a wonderful time of talking to you. And also a lawyer and a public policy analyst, Barrister Yidiame Romosele. It's a wonderful time talking to you right here on Spotlight on Super 92.7 FM. We just hope that things really get better in our dear country, Nigeria.